Hello, everybody, and welcome to this World Hunger Day global webinar. Thank you for joining us. My name is Anna Slattery, and I serve as the global lead for the World Hunger Day campaign. Each year on World Hunger Day, we recognize the critical issue of chronic hunger, the hunger that 733 million people around the world are living with day in and day out. Chronic hunger rarely captures the headlines, and yet it is one of the most complex challenges of our time. It is deeply ingrained in the issues of gender inequality, poverty, health, economy, and security. This kind of hunger is being driven by forces that are escalating all around us: climate change, conflict, and economic shocks. These crises are overlapping and accelerating, but they are not inevitable. They demand a global response rooted in justice, resilience, and collective action. Hunger is not a symptom that we must accept. It's a call to act together with urgency and courage. World Hunger Day is also about celebrating the powerful solutions people are implementing to end hunger. These solutions come from NGOs, governments, international organizations like the United Nations, and critically, from the communities living with hunger themselves. So today, with all of that, it could not be more fitting that we are focusing on resilience, how individuals, families, and entire systems are transforming adversity into opportunity, sowing the seeds of change and creating a better world. I am honored to present this powerful exchange between two visionary leaders. They are reimagining Africa's future and actively shaping it so resilience, equity, and opportunity thrive. Through their leadership, they are opening pathways for millions of individuals across the continent to step into their power, contribute meaningfully, and cultivate a brighter, hunger-free future for generations to come. So now it's my pleasure to introduce our speakers. Amath Pathe Sene is a widely respected development leader and strategist with nearly 2 decades of experience across Africa and beyond. He currently serves as the Managing Director for Africa at the Africa Food Systems Forum. Pathe has led high-impact work with the UN, international financial institutions, and governments, driving progress on climate resilience, agri-food systems, and sustainable development. He brings deep expertise and a systems level of perspective and a strong commitment to equity, innovation, and local leadership. I'm also delighted to introduce Rowlands Kaotcha, the recently appointed president and CEO of the Hunger Project. Rowlands brings more than 20 years of experience in leading community-driven development across Africa and around the world. He is a passionate advocate for empowering people, especially women, to lead sustainable change. Rowlands has been with the Hunger Project for over 2 decades, and in that time, he has shaped global program strategy, expanded work across Southern Africa, and championed grassroots leadership. Rowlands combines deep technical expertise with lived experience and is a powerful voice for equity, resilience, and transformation from the ground up. Now, before we begin, just a few quick housekeeping items to help you get the most out of today's webinar. Interpretation is available in French, Spanish, and Portuguese. If it's not working yet, it will be soon. To access it, please click the globe icon on your Zoom toolbar and select your preferred language channel. Captions are also available in English and can be translated into over 30 languages. To turn them on, click the CC button on your Zoom toolbar, then select subtitles and choose your preferred language. Finally, this session is being recorded and will be made available after the event. Now, let's settle in. This is not just a conversation, it's an invitation to listen deeply, learn, and recommit to the shared vision of a world free from hunger. Rowlands, I'll pass the mic over to you, and then I'll be back towards the end of our session.
Oh, great. Thank you very much, Anna. You call us experts. So humbling to be called experts party, right? I guess the real experts of the work are the communities that we work with and that are out there that are providing leadership to the end of hunger. And so, Pathe, great to meet you again today. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, very well. Thank you so much. Thanks for associating this conversation.
Excellent. Right. Thank you very much to to meet with you again today, my friend. Now, Pathe, let's have a conversation here. I mean, we're in a world which is really facing climate shocks, conflict, and rising inequality. I hope you also see it, not only in Senegal, but in many places in the world. You have worked on many countries in the world. And so, what will it truly take for Africa, not just to manage these shocks, because sometimes we are just like managing them? What will it truly take for Africa, not just to manage these shocks, but to lead with the resilience and thrive on its own terms? Any thoughts about that?
Yeah. No, thank you so much. And it's such an honor also to join you for at this important moment of the year, on a topic that matters for all of us, particularly when we talk about ending hunger. We should be probably all as human beings ashamed, still at the, in 2025, talking about combating hunger, when it's the basic needs on any continent. So should be talking about other elements, technologies, or I don't know, trying to do something magic outside the basic need. But still, the reality for the continent is we still need to solve this problem, and it's possible. So, but it's in a context, as you describe, of inequalities, climate change, demographic population rising, young people looking for job and employment, gender inequality. So now conflict and wars in other parts of the world that affect us. But at the same time, it's a paradox of a continent that has, 60% of the arable lands in the world, water resources, a huge demographic dividend with young people. 70% of the continent, the population is young, and also the possibility to leapfrog. Not necessarily to recreate the wheel, but to leapfrog in a context of technology and innovation. So, in all of this, that context and background, the issue is not really like to manage the shocks and problems. The issue is to withstand when there is any shock and still continue to build your resilience, but at the same time be able also to continue to thrive. And how to do it, I think I see many pillars. Number one is, first of all, the preparedness. Preparedness to shocks is important, because when you know what's going to happen, anyway, we cannot avoid it. We are in a context where the global politics creates some tension. We are in a world where climate change, you cannot avoid it. It's happening. It happen. You need to adapt. And we are in a world where also, because of the way we do business, inequality is there. And some people are also happy to continue to do so, because it's also how the world is set. Now, how do you prepare to those different shocks? It requires information, it requires intelligence. If you have intelligence and information, you can prepare. I can just give a simple example. In Japan, before an earthquake, so people had the information, they have all, and they ask people to, trigger all the mechanism because there will be an earthquake. But this has been studied, and then they created some system on their buildings to make sure that this is managed. So on climate change in Africa, we don't have climate weather station to be informed on what will happen. So you cannot even predict 2 months. You can predict a very short moment. And when there is a shock, everything is gone. And then obviously you have hunger, you have also aid coming in, all these images of, bags being by plane, which in fact we should necessarily manage. So to manage, you need infrastructure. To prevent shocks, whether it is on agriculture, you have to put those systems in place. It requires money. These are public goods, not necessarily private, but it will provide also to the private actors information they need to manage, like come with insurance. If there is shocks and damage is huge, so you can restore the assets and livelihood. So that element is needed. It needed also to give all the private sector the information they need, the banking sector to be, comfortable. Whoever wants to finance somewhere where vulnerability to shocks are, obviously they need also preparedness, they need the information, they need data, they need whatever is required to say, okay, I can go, no problem, even if there is a shock, we will continue. And then the second is like, after the preparedness, anyway, you need like adaptation measures. The adaptation measures means any shocks that may happen. And for the case of Africa, when we talk about hunger and food, we need to adapt. First adaptation is, biological adaptation on disease. So whether it's like locusts or any kind of disease that may happen and affect your production system or even the individual that produce. So that one needs to be in place, and we need to adapt and get everything, because this is not like preparedness, it's happening. Second is also, it could be on climate shocks, adaptation, and all these big, discussion around the world. In climate COPs, we're talking about adaptation in terms of money, but adaptation in terms of techniques, and how do we produce indigenous techniques that have been forgotten, but also techniques that are new. It might be like, even in the Sahel, for instance, you have Zai techniques or half moon techniques. These are happening for many, many years, and it helps to deal with water scarcities. But these are local that need to be scaled up, and then other region of the world work on it. Adaptation techniques also mean, for instance, water management, water systems that are put in place. So all of this, you need to put a price for the private sector to come in. It cannot be just a public sector stuff or some pilot project. It should be somewhere where people come in, they can get money. By the way, in the deep business of climate, you will see mitigations, solar energy. Those things get a lot of money because there is a price, and the others can come in. So to adapt, we need different technologies, techniques, practice that need to be in place to make sure that we produce enough, feed our people, but also deal with nutrition and food insecurity. So the third one is transfer risk. So to be able to, stand up, you need to transfer the risk. The shock, sometimes the magnitude is so high that even if you adapt, even if you prepare, everything is gone. And unfortunately, it happened to those that are most vulnerable. Today, when you compare to the US, when you have these hurricanes, when everything is gone, in a month, you have the army, you have the federal government, you have insurance company paying back, and then people restore their livelihood very quickly. When it happened in our countries, it's like mass migration. People who are completely lost because first, financial resources are there. Second, we have not subscribed to, insurance or international reinsurance to be able to deal with. So local insurance are not able to deal with regional one, continental, and we should be able to put those financial mechanisms that help you when something happens and you cannot do anything because it's so huge, it's beyond even the capacity of the country or the continent. We have also some institution like the Africa Risk Capacity, which is based in Johannesburg, is one of those financial institution. You have like Munich Re or the Caribbean Disaster Risk Management facilities. Most of those ones are set to deal with when you are on a continent. So our countries need to subscribe to know that, it cannot be just inshallah or maybe it will happen or not happen. You have to start like subscribing, paying, and then when you have a shock, maybe there is a payout for you and for those vulnerable community to restore in dignity, not waiting for aid. And I believe most of those when they are combined, you start building the resilience. The resilience also, fourth pillar is governance around. The governance of bringing other elements around the livelihood, which will be the knowledge, the know-how, the skills, the money, and all of this will help you as an individual to be strong and then to be able also to deal with difficult contexts when they happen and be able to continue living in dignity. And most of those ones are the public policy need to work on, but also integrate young people, integrate vulnerable communities, make sure that we deal with hunger, particularly in the most vulnerable continent.
Right, thank you. That's really great to hear. So there's hope. There's hope here, and I think one of the points you touched on, Pathe, is infrastructure, limited infrastructure in Africa, for example, countries around to respond to disasters when they happen, and really that is one of the reasons I think why we must be building resilience in rural communities across Africa. Right. And there are so many things we can blame about insufficient infrastructure for governments to respond quickly to disaster. Right. There are so many: limited public investment, climate pressure, urban development bias, weak local, weak local governance. They are all there. But I guess it's not an issue of blaming that. I think the issue is how much are we building or investing in building resilience in local communities? And I just wanted to give an example here, Pathe, of why it is so critical to build local community resilience. So it's critical that communities can manage the short-term response during times of crisis. It's important for us to build that. And I would like to give an example here of what the Hunger Project we do in countries where we work in. And let me use an example of Malawi. In Malawi, we saw this in 2023 when there was Cyclone Freddy that hit. The Hunger Project is working with several communities and that were impacted during the storm. And one of the core parts of our food security program in these communities is to establish a community food bank where farmers themselves store their harvest until they can fetch a better price at the market or when the lean season comes in. And so we witnessed the situation when Freddy hit in the community decided to open their community food reserves to provide immediate food aid to the families affected. These were families not only from the communities that are partnering with the Hunger Project, but also from communities beyond those that are partnering directly with the Hunger Project. Now, for me, at community level, when I saw that at community level, the ability to make that decision, number one, and quickly address the situation was very crucial. Okay. And then after that, they were able now to focus on rebuilding processes in their area. So I think you're right here to say, as much as we acknowledge that infrastructure is limited, we should also be deliberate in the way we also focus at all levels, like at community level, at regional level, at country level, in building this resilience in the areas where we are working in. So, yeah, great. Thank you very much, there, Pathe. Something.
In fact, I wanted to add, and so true what you have shared from your project. Sometimes building resilience starts also from inside, and we tend to think that it has to come from outside. But anyone who is affected by something, even a human body or cell, start already fighting from inside. And I think we need to also to use, some internal way of dealing with shocks.
Yeah.
And those food reserves have not been like there yesterday. It's been there for centuries. When farmers, whenever they produce, they used to take part of their production, then put it into those kind of reserve within the village, and they are sharing. And if there is a period where now the food is gone, so they can now redistribute. So you have countries that have it because it's a planning, it's a whole planning. And that one require also some infrastructure, physical infrastructure that today have like a lot of rain, so those physical infrastructure can be there. Today a road that connect production area to markets. When that road is not climate resilient, if you have big rains, it's gone. So you need to find all the equipment that are climate resilient. The infrastructure need to be proofed, climate proof, to be there for many years, and it helps now deal with problems. Sometimes you have to trucks stuck somewhere for many months because of just a small piece of road, and unfortunately, it was not just climate. So all those elements need to be taken into account to continue to get food on and availability of food on time, but making sure also market are connected to production areas in a very sustainable and long term. But I fully agree with you.
Great, thank you very much, Pathe there. And how about sometimes we talk and can we go a little bit personal on our personal lives here, Pathe? Is that okay with you? I think I love it sometimes when I have conversations and I bring it home in the sense that I bring it to moments about my own life, right? Is that okay? We can take
Absolutely.
the conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Was there a moment in your life as an individual or in your career, whichever, but something that really connects to you personally that shaped how you understand resilience?
Yeah, no, excellent. So I think I was born in Senegal, and, which is a Sahelian country, and the Sahel. When you talk about Africa, Sahel is a country where you have 3 months of rain, and some area even less. So which means you have population for many years that have been, building their resilience to survive, and to know how to deal with scarcity, and been going to parents' village back and forth, and seeing also these communities and also relatives and parents and people who are there, trying to produce more and with less, and sometimes with irregularity of rain. So that has pushed me to when I reached the university stage to go and do agriculture. It's things you see when you are a boy that shape also your desire to go and help. Because I thought that the best way is to be a technical person and come and solve it, and with a magical stick, it's easy. Why this is happening this way? Why they grow it with donkeys or horses when you can just have a machine and do it? So these are like dreams of kids, and the best way was now to go and enroll in the that field, and that's how I became an ag engineer. But not enough. I thought that it was also to make this work as a technical engineer. We need also to touch into those elements that also influence production, and one of the most important one was climate change. And as I finished my studies and start doing other specialization, in many parts of the world, in Morocco, in Israel, and in France. My focus was how do you bring those different pieces to build your academic background, and then I started working on climate finance. So you have an issue which you can solve technically, but you need money. So there is innovative way of getting money and managing the natural resources to build the resilience of the system, production system, but of the individual. Then you need also to bring new innovation. And my first professional career after France was in Afghanistan. So spent 2 years there in rural communities where building linking relief rehabilitation and development in communities that have been badly hit by war, but also trying to get and restore in very complicated ecosystem far away from Africa was my first test to go and learn from, like, when a system is has collapsed and being rebuilt to withstand to any other shocks. It was a good model of resilience, and also those people have been there forever. They went through several wars, but they're there. They're still there. They're very proud, and you're part of the journey, contributing to how to do it before now joining the United Nations. And most projects I have been working has been on resilience building of systems and ecosystem, but resilience building of also our governance. You know, when you have shocks, how to govern institutions, depending. And right now, the good example is like ED, where big funders pull out, and then everybody is like, going all over, with USA. But at the end of the day, it's a good way also to test your resilience to something that is missing. And I think that has to be always the mindset that what is given to you may not be there every time. And you need a plan B, C, D, and all those plans need to be programmed and then plan ahead, 5, 10 years, 50 years. And it's in a way you do development, not just responding to shocks and not responding to, something, but you have to plan. And when anything comes, you are able to. So it has been personal from a childhood perspective, and then that has shaped my academic and, of course, professional career. And I've been also testing even myself as an individual, leaving my country this year will be 28 years, and then being in almost 9 countries where you live with residents, and testing yourself and how resilient are you on a new other ecosystem, and also losing something from your initial background, but taking the best of that society communities to have another way of seeing the world, but also contributing to each of those different ones. So in conclusion, you became something else, and what is most important, you became also useful to any society when you were able to give a service that society needs and they will value. So obviously, it doesn't matter where you're coming from. It's just like, the competencies and the skills you have developed or gained that can be always used to society. And I think most of the people who navigate from different societies, they have that capacity to provide something and serve something that is useful, and they obviously should be able to be part of that community. And it's also part of their resilience to changing places and living with different communities, with different culture and different realities. So, and I think most of the professionals in this area, we need to test ourselves in that, getting out of our comfort zone, but making sure that it's, if you talk about hunger, it's the world. It's not only Africa. There are other parts of the world people are doing it, and should we also be part of the solution, regardless if we are part of that community or we are coming from far. At the end of the day, we are talking about humanity.
Great. Wow, thank you. That's really exciting news to hear. It's strange how we find ourselves being shaped right from the time we were young, when and the way we confronted issues at that time, what we observed, and how we, like, being young and leading from a place of possibility and not limitation, like the questions you were asking when you were young, and how keeping those now as we are in all these leadership positions and all that is really, really important. I remember myself leaving my village for university, and I remember coming back to visit one time and thinking to myself, same questions you're asking. Why is everything just as I left? Right? I left so many years ago. I come back, I found it the same. There are countless development programs. Not that they are bad. No, there are countless development programs happening here. There is food aid being distributed to my neighbors, and yet there is still hunger. And so I knew that if the aid stopped, the community would be devastated. And it occurred to me then that there had to be a better way, okay, to shape the development of communities. And I knew within myself, now I know the names or the labels we put to all that type of thinking when we talk, mindset change or resilience and all that. But that time it was not. I didn't have those names, but I knew that the aid model needed to shift to one that empowers community leadership and builds resilience of the infrastructure, of the systems, but most importantly, what you have mentioned, Pathe, of the people. Because for you, you have given an example of you and how you had to be resilient in all those places you went in, letting go of certain things, but picking up other things. So building resilience, not only of the infrastructure, but of the systems, but most importantly of the people. And in this world where we are in right now, you have given an example of aid pulling out and also an opportunity for us to ask the questions we never asked before and all that. I mean, in this world where the world is asking how to build resilience, again, here I'll give my own experience with the Hunger Project. We at the Hunger Project already are, and I want to give again an example here. Pathe, we work with communities. We call these communities epicenters. So these are like communities of 15 to 30,000 people coming together. We call that community as an epicenter. As I speak right now, there are 86 self-reliant epicenters with a total population of about 1.4 million people. 52% of those are women in Africa who have actually declared themselves as self-reliant. Now, while that number is great, but sometimes the story behind the number is what is important when you want to prove self-reliance or resilience. And so in one of these 86 epicenters, and this happened in Malawi here, it had one of the things we support them with is construction of the infrastructure, hospital, food bank, and all that. And with another cyclone in 2021, the whole roof, the food bank, health facility, credit room, all those were blown off. And that was a big thing. And yet, it was a real test of self-reliance for the Hunger Project. And the Hunger Project Malawi did not invest new money. We watched to see how the community was going to manifest their agency. I visited last month this community, and I did not only see a fully roofed epicenter infrastructure together with all services restored, but the epicenter committee took us to a nearby school, and they showed us 2 new school blocks and a sanitary friendly toilets for girls, which they built, and they had a processing unit, which they have put in place, more than one, which they have put in place, all these, a demonstration of their agency. They were now able to forge new partnerships on their own without any support from the Hunger Project. And to me, I looked at that, I said, this is really great to see. And this is what we should be shooting for and aiming for in every community that we are working in. And so, yeah, do you see, Pathe, do you see a place for local leadership in building resilience? Do you see do you see local leadership playing a role in building resilience?
Yeah, no, I think, first of all, it has to start. Everything has to start from local. And it's excellent for you today, in Malawi, you have a better understanding of what's going on there because of you are there. Even if you use a project as a way to get deeper because you have resources, but as an individual from that place, or an individual from Niger or from Morocco, he knows better that local context than all of us. Sometimes now you don't have the techniques to see what is around you because you can be part of a system, but your eyes are not that open. And someone else from outside can tell you, oh, these are the opportunities, these are the things. So that's how also life is. Nevertheless, leaders, when you reach that level where they say you are leading a community or you are a local leader, it means you have a certain number of capacities to see you know, what is wrong, what is right, and to be able to give the direction and to lead a group or to lead a village or to lead a community towards desire, you know, outcome or, you know, something better than what they are right now. But those leaders today, if you are coming to support, whether you are coming from central or outside, you need to, first of all, get them as an entry point. So the underlining, under the table stuff, the reality, most of those elements which development practitioners, they don't know, or they would like to give you some just information to have, because you are just coming to help. You may not have those ones. If there is a sensor discussion, they give you the reality. I'll give you a simple example. But when I was working in Afghanistan, I was doing a lot of surveys in the village. And then for almost 2 months, I was receiving some data from some of these communities. But some of them seemed to not be right, you know, from a critical thinking, you know, the numbers you were receiving. But within time, you know, you get to use the people. You became a good friend of them. You were going to the mosque. I was going most of the time to the mosque with them on Friday. And you build trust. When you build trust, some of them start giving you the reality. They are local leaders, they're local individuals, but they give you the reality. The reality, it happened that, you know, for some of them, I said, but why did you give me these numbers on your number of, you know, hectares and then number of animals and so on? You say, no, because this is a country where every single day we also see a new development guy coming and asking us questions. So we are waiting for them to bring us money, which is also a reaction of local communities vis-a-vis development practitioners. So if now you go through those local leaders that build trust, and then they don't want to get also the right things in mind. So I believe that's the first entry point. The second entry point is also what is going on within that community, within that local system. They already have the dynamics, you know, interest, the politics, and the power dynamics. So they know, and you may not know because you are not from there. So, and if you want to get a project right, an intervention right, you need also to do an institutional and context analysis, which they can give you rightly. And most of our projects, they fail because of that element of, you know, you just have a technical proposal with component intervention, but you miss the most important, which is the ownership, the themselves. And by the way, they always say, oh, your project. Right? And the project is intended to them. So which means they have not owned it fully. But when it was their project coming to you and you were just a supporter, it's a different story because they own it. And this project will just change the life of the people because themselves will be on the driving seat, not just like being transported by project development practitioners or experts. And I think that's the best way we can get also the result on the way we do business. Sometimes you just need to trust, give them the possibility, but also provide some advice and being on, not on the driving seat, but being part of the team, part of that community, and give also the strength to lead because they are already appointed or they have appointed themselves as leaders. And I think it's the best way to move and trust also the direction, give inside, outside in, rather than like, you know, the other way around. So top down, outside has proven to be not impactful and a lot of failure. So I think we need also to self-criticize our models on the way we do it and come to be partners rather than just, you know, pushing some agendas that are more like a tick box or evaluation. Because even money from an institutional or from our partners, but it has to be something that is meaningful, that are changing the life of the people. It's not always money. It's about models. It's about systems. Well, with maybe a little bit of amount of money will change the life of communities and people, but a little bit of contribution of local leaders to drive you to the right direction, that project will become gold. But big amount of money without listening to locals and the reality, then that project unfortunately will be another debt on the country. And even if it is a grant, it's a lost money because it's also taxpayers for those people from the north. So we have to take all those elements into consideration, build wisdom on the, how development should be done differently, and
Excellent. Thank you.
resilience.
No, thank you very much for that. I know Anna is in, and just before I pass to you, Anna, to take us towards the end of our webinar, I love it, Pathe, when you say it's everything. Local leadership is everything, and without local ownership, honestly, there is no resilience. And what communities are part of, in the design, in the implementation, in the review, I think that's what we're explaining there. Those solutions, they last. And in Senegal, actually, the country you are born from, there's a village there called Yene, where we work in. It's a village called Yene. It's on the Atlantic coast, and most of the villagers there are fishers, or they work in the fish value chain, right? Now, one example before I pass on, I think you need to hear this part because it's coming from the country where you were born. And it's there's a woman there named Aminata, and whose leadership is a great example for this issue that we're discussing like right now, local leadership. Yene has been hit, as you know, hard by climate change and overfishing, deeply impacting the livelihoods and food security of many community members there. And here, Aminata participated in the Hunger Project's training. After that, he decided to organize a women's cooperative to collect, clean, and repurpose plastic waste in the village. The women, they melt the discarded bags to craft reusable goods and artistic creations. This innovation has not only cleaned the village of Yene, but it has created new income streams and built a stronger sense of solidarity. And so Aminata also established a fish processing business that is focused on sustainability. So not just fish processing business, but focused on sustainability. The waste from her fish processing, goes straight into her compost, which nourishes her fields. And her produce is well sought after in the markets where Aminata sells her crops. And many farmers have actually learned from Aminata to create organic fertilizers for their fields. For Aminata, for me, is directly contributing to the food security and resilience of our community to continue to withstand the shocks of climate change. And that's a great example of local leadership and local wisdom. And I thought I should mention it because it comes from the country that you are born from.
Amazing.
But I know that we've almost exhausted our time, and so let me hand over to Anna. Thank you very much, Anna, for giving us this opportunity really to have a conversation with Pathe.
Thank you.
Thank you both. And I love that story of Aminata. I'm really hoping that I get to meet her when I'm in Senegal later this year for the Africa Food Systems Forum, which is happening in Dakar. And, I think, Pathe, you captured the main takeaway of this webinar so succinctly very early on in the conversation, where you said resilience starts inside and it doesn't come from outside. And for me, that was a powerful reminder that lasting change really begins with this inner conviction that there is a different future that's possible. It's a conviction that individual local leaders need to have, but also a conviction within our institutions as well, within the United Nations, within the governments that we're working with. And our role is really to bring resilience, or not to bring resilience, but to recognize it and nurture it and walk alongside it. And so as we close, I would like to invite each of you to share one action that everyone can take here as a result of this conversation? And what's one thing that we can each do to move from inspiration to impact? And Pathe, I'll start with you, and then Rowlands can close us out.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And I'm also taking this webinar here from Abidjan at the African Development Bank, which is one of our bank financial institution, African one, that contribute also to the resilience building of communities, and a lot of discussion happening. But when you look at also the gathering here, like the Africa Food System Forum, it's a system. And the system, to break a system when all the different pieces are connected, it's very hard. But when the system is disconnected, it's very easy to break the others. And of course, your resilience to any shocks is also like broken easily. So I think when we come to food, and again, I always repeat it, the food we eat before even coming to this webinar, or, has traveled from local communities, probably somewhere in Malawi, or, somewhere in Congo, or in the northern part of Tunisia, when it comes to fruits, until your table. But different communities, different ecosystem has contributed. The one who has transported, the one who has packaged, and who has even enabled the policy to start producing those vegetables as a policy maker until your table, and then you are enjoying it. But that system today has to be well connected on a daily basis, speaking to each other, to know that there is a wave of shocks coming, and then we need to, all hold our hands like this to make sure that when the shocks comes, we are still resilient and we are maintaining that food that comes to the table, and then combat hunger. Otherwise, then malnutrition and hunger will be easily. So my message is, let's always act as a group, as a system, because only alone you won't make it. You can produce a lot, but if it's not reaching the market, nothing will happen. You can have a lot of market connection. If there is no production, nothing. If it is not well packaged, you won't necessarily also sell into other markets. So standards, norms, all of these are needed for intra-trade between different countries, and also create jobs. Money is needed, so you need also capital. You need to talk to investors. Investors should not be afraid to invest in agriculture, even if risks are there. But you need also some people who will come and de-risk the sector. And those are insurance, those are guaranteed funds. So the financial sector should be part of it. We need also capacity building. It's another good. All these one need to come in the capacity and make sure that the entire food ecosystem works to deal with hunger, not in silo, but together. And together, we will be always able to deal with food insecurity and nutrition insecurity, and create a prosperous continent, but also a prosperous world.
Rowlands.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pathe. And yes, what is the one thing you should take from this action you should take from this conversation? Be a champion of the end of hunger. Today is World Hunger Day. Leverage this day to rally your network to join the movement to end hunger. And what Pathe is saying is join the movement to end hunger. Sometimes it feels hard to post about social media issues. And so here's the challenge that I would like to give to each one of you on this webinar. Share one thing you learned during this webinar on your LinkedIn and tag me, tag Pathe, tag the Hunger Project, tag Africa Food Systems Forum. 2, invite conversations about resilience and sustainability within your own workplace. How can you and your business contribute to ending hunger? And lastly, but not least, invest. Invest in local solutions. Pathe mentioned about financing, investing. Invest in local solutions and community resilience. And you can invest directly in organizations like the Hunger Project, or perhaps look at ways you can invest your time and talent to build resilience in your own community. Now, let me use Pathe's words here. Remember, resilience is not delivered. Resilience is discovered. It grows when you choose to listen, to act, and to stand alongside those creating change from the ground up. I think the question for each one of us is not whether resilience is possible. I think the question is whether we are willing to be part of it. And so thank you very much, Pathe. I love having these chats with you, and I'm looking forward to joining the Africa Food Systems this year. Thank you.
And you're most welcome to Dakar from 31st August to 5th September. So all of you who are also connected online, please join this movement. So let's also, solve the hunger and start building a prosperous continent, our lovely, strong and resilient Africa.
Wonderful. A message of collective action to close us out. Thank you so much to both of you for spending part of your World Hunger Day with us. We appreciate it. And thank you for everybody who tuned in, and to our wonderful interpreters who were working hard to make sure this message was available in French, Spanish, and Portuguese. So thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day.